Hi everyone and good Thursday. Thanks for winding down the month of May with us. Can you believe June ushering in tomorrow? And maybe on a stormy note like the one that May is ending on. We'll talk about your weather forecast in more detail. We've still got the possibility for some weather like we have seen today, definitely on a stormy note. We do have a host of headlines tonight. The McGoffin County Board of Education meeting. They discussed the summer feeding program and their budget, among other things. The McGoffin County Fiscal Court meeting. They discussed renaming Route 1888 Burning Fork Road in honor of a local hero. They talked about some drone support and the $1.25 million water expansion project that's getting closer to beginning. A McGoffin County man was one of 3 people indicted on conspiracy to distribute and other drug-related charges. He was the subject of a seizure from his residence of thousands of dollars this week, dozens of guns. The investigation is ongoing, and he has a court date, a trial date that's already been set, and I'll tell you about that in just a few moments. 2 fires in about 6 hours this week, less than a mile apart or so on Route 40. 2 homes completely destroyed, 2 families, a family and a couple losing all their belongings. I'll give you the report on that as well. And today was set aside, this morning at least, to recanvass not 1 but 2 races here in McGoffin County. I had a camera there. I have a report to follow. And we're still kind of getting caught up from a lot of the meeting coverage, of course, that's been taking place over the past few weeks in lieu of election and other events going on. We'll start to get all that done. Well, we'll have all that done by tomorrow. I also have awards as were presented to graduating seniors at the McGoffin County High School, holding that off till tomorrow as well. With that said, 2 stories that I already have done, awaiting some further details on some other top headlines. So we'll jump right now to coverage of the McGoffin County Board of Education meeting earlier this week. Now, this was a special session meeting, if you will. They did discuss the summer feeding program at length. There are 2 new sites to add to the list of more than a dozen now. And they also discussed with their chief financial advisor, the budget, the tentative budget for the McGoffin County School District. As for the summer feeding program, food service coordinator Andrew Oliver outlined that it is growing each year, that in addition to the 3 elementary schools, they are also using those schools to provide the food for all the mobile stations. And out of those 3 elementary schools, they are now operating 15 separate sites, with the feeding program starting Monday, June the 11th, and lasting until July the 27th. As for it growing, Oliver says that they have added 2 new sites this summer.
We had the Lakefront Church come on board this year, so they'll be feeding there this summer. And Pine Point Apartments contacted me and wanted to be on a mobile route.
The meals provided on a first-come, first-served basis, but they work very hard to make sure that all kids are fed. They're Monday through Fridays, the entire summer, basically, from June the 11th through July the 27th, at the following times and locations. At Allen Drive Apartments, noon until 12:20. At College Heights, 11:30 till 11:50. At the Falcon Trailer Park, 12:30 through 12:50. At the Johnson Mobile Home Park, noon to 12:20. At the Lakefront Church, 11 till noon. At the Licking River Baptist Church, 11 till noon. At the Mountain Parkway Trailer Park, 12:30 to 12:50. At North McGoffin Elementary, 11:30 till 1. At North McGoffin Fire Department, 11:30 till noon. North McGoffin Park, noon until 12:20. Pine Point Apartments, 12:30 till 1. The Ramey Memorial Park, noon until 12:20. Sagersville Grade School, 11:30 till 1. South McGoffin Elementary, 11:30 till 1. South McGoffin Fire Department, 11:30 till 12:30. And if you have any questions about these dates, times, or otherwise, you can call the McGoffin County Schools Food Service number at 349-0916. And for a hard copy of this list, you can get one out of this week's edition of the Sagersville Independent. Going on to other business, it was primarily budgets that were discussed. First, approving the budgets for the schools, and then entering an official working session, if you will, to ultimately approve the tentative budget for the school district. Kevin Owens, the financial officer, outlined that 77.89% of the budget will go towards salaries and benefits, and that the entire budget will leave the school with a 2.76% contingency, with school districts required to have 2% by law. Owens did note that the contingency would have been higher had the school district not had the realization that they were going to have to spend some significant money on old or outdated or broken equipment that was going to be needed to be replaced or repaired. The total budget for the McGoffin County School District coming in almost the same as last year at $10,840,440. Caught up with local governmental coverage in Tuesday's regular session of the McGoffin County Fiscal Court. The main topics of discussion were renaming Burning Fork Route 1888 in honor of a local veteran and hero. They also discussed some drone support for a local life-saving agency and the $1.25 million water expansion project, which is getting closer to going in the ground. First was discussion and some comments on behalf of Danny Adams, speaking on behalf of a resolution that the fiscal court would address and unanimously approve in honor of renaming a McGoffin County roadway in honor of a McGoffin County hero. Adams speaking on behalf of 99-year-old Albert Patrick, who, of course, as I think everyone is well aware of after coverage here and in the Sagersville Independent, was the recipient recently of the Bronze Star by Congressman Hal Rogers, after being overlooked for many years by military personnel for, as Adams described it, obvious and understandable reasons and circumstances, nevertheless, for Patrick's heroic acts in World War II.
The guy was always proud. He is proud of his county. He is proud of where he's from. He is proud of serving his country. And let me tell you what he said. He said, you know, when I was in Pearl Harbor before the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor, he said war was going on in Europe. He said, you know what, Daddy? He said, I thought I'd missed out on the war. He was a rare breed. He was one of the greatest generations that was born to do what he did. But naming 1888 Old Burning Fork Road, the proposal that Doc has made. Albert was born and raised on that road. He lived his first several years in the Ivyton area of it, at the tip end up there of it before it meets the Parkway. And then in the 40s, they moved down, and his dad actually served as sheriff of this county, Oliver Patrick. And they moved down to the Bradley community, upper part of Bradley.
The significance of renaming that particular roadway in his honor is that he traveled that roadway for most of his life, from a small child living on 1888 and in the Burning Fork area and Bradley. He also as well lived there for many years as an adult. And there was unanimous approval and support of a resolution in such as naming 1888 the Albert Patrick Highway. There will also be a dedication and signage to follow. Moving on to some other business matters, there was a transfer of $45,000 from the general fund to the jail fund. They approved the first reading of a budget amendment. They voted to keep the annual earthquake insurance policy, which has been in effect for some time, at a cost of $5,700. And then they entertained a presentation from the McGoffin County Rescue Squad, Captain Carter Conley and Jason Slusher, describing the recent classes and training that members of the Rescue Squad have been undergoing, which has put them, according to many, ahead of many other organizations in our area in pursuit of their FFA certification.
None of us are 107 certified, which is FAA certification, which we're working on. But we've had the COA signed by all the officials in the county, and we're working through the FAA to try to get it approved as quick as we can. And we're working on funding for, trying to get funding for a thermal imaging camera, which will help us to fly at night, find people at night, and everything like that.
Yeah, thermal heat seeker that way. To give you an example, about last summer, late summer, we got a call from emergency management over in Johnson County. They had a elderly person, Alzheimer's lost, over in Williamsport. And I called him and I said, you know, we didn't have the heat that time, we just had another eye in the sky with the camera. He's in Gary, said, yeah, bring it on. So the guys went over there, and they had crews out looking, and of course we deployed the drone. Were you there? Something, or that's Zach? Okay. Somewhere around 30, 45 minutes later, they did kind of go up a trail or a fence line where he used to go, and they found him. And when they found them, they looked up and the drone was right over top of them, but they couldn't see during the leaves and all like that. So if we'd had the thermal imaging, we would have probably found him 10 to 15 minutes after we got on site.
The fiscal court then gave the rescue squad their full support in their efforts and also gave them $1,000 towards the purchase of a new drone that they are working towards in an effort to have thermal imaging capabilities to be able to find individuals based on their body heat in extreme and dark situations. And one of the last items of business was a resolution pertaining to the documents needed to be signed and the project, which is getting closer to beginning, the $1.25 million water expansion project, which will install new water lines from North Magoffin Elementary to the new industrial park on the Mountain Parkway, making improvements and connecting new customers along the way.
The next is the infrastructure project. And what that is, I've been talking to John Blanton, and it is $1.255 million water infrastructure. It will begin at North Magoffin Elementary School, travel along 460, picking up existing customers along the routes Pleasant Hill and Gifford, beginning at the industrial park. We have some existing bottlenecks there with water lines that are 3 and 4 inches. These will be converted to 6-inch pipe. Upon completion, the industrial park will have an elevated 55,000 gallon water tank to accommodate the industrial park service. It would allow for emergency connection to the Middle Fork section of the county, and would also obviously be important for fire protection for that area.
No date was given on the beginning of that project, but we'll keep you up to date as it gets closer. I'll be right back. More major headlines after this, including the FBI arresting a Magoffin County man on drug distribution and conspiracy charges earlier this week. Stay tuned. Foothills Communications brings you the latest in fast fiber internet for home, business, or gaming. HD digital TV with DVR, pay-per-view, and all the favorite channels you're looking for, plus crystal clear communications. Customize your experience today and become a platinum customer simply by signing up for FiberNet phone and TV and save at least $10 off your monthly bill. The world awaits at Foothills Communications and foothills.net. Was just unsealed after being served Tuesday morning of this week in Magoffin County at the residence of a Magoffin County man. He and 2 women from out of state, from what I understand, were all named in an indictment obtained by the FBI after a lengthy ongoing investigation that, from what I understand, was targeted at a man who authorities believe had sold thousands and thousands of pills here in Magoffin County and in the area and for quite some time. They raided the house off of River Road. They also made an arrest and seized nearly $50,000 in cash and dozens of weapons. Well, the investigation is ongoing. The FBI, with the assistance of the Magoffin County Sheriff's Department, executed the arrest warrant. The FBI doing a lengthy investigation and arresting Danny Porter at his residence off of River Road this week on Tuesday morning. The indictment actually issued on the 24th, but not unsealed until after his arrest. Danny Porter is also named alongside 2 women, I believe both from out of state, maybe from Ohio, a Catherine Redlark and a Tanya Owens. It is believed that they conspired together to bring pills that he would purchase from the 2 women back to Magoffin County to resell. The indictment alleges that on or around September the 15th through September the 30th of last year, the 3 conspired with each other to distribute controlled substances, a quantity of pills. They don't go into an exact number, but I'm told by confidential and anonymous sources at this time that they suspect he was responsible for putting thousands and thousands of pills on the streets of Magoffin County and into possibly the surrounding area. The first count is a conspiracy count. Count 2 is a possession with the intent to distribute count against Danny Porter. The third count is also aimed at Danny Porter for possession of firearms in furtherance of a drug trafficking offense. And also, there's a forfeiture allegation attached. $46,342 in cash was seized from Danny Porter back on September the 22nd of 2016. apparently, per part of the investigation. And that's after the authorities took back their $860 in buy money that had been provided by law enforcement. Also seized a list of guns totaling well more than a dozen in total, some handguns, some long guns, some of a very significant value, but a total of 20 firearms, handguns, rifles, and shotguns. The indictment alleges that he faces not more than 20 years imprisonment and not more than $1 million fine and at least 3 years of supervised release on count 1 and 2, and that's for all three individuals. On count 3, which names Porter only, not less than 5 years or more than life imprisonment and no more than a $250,000 fine. Now, the penalty portion of this indictment also says that in the case of a second or subsequent conviction, not less than 25 years of imprisonment or more than a $250,000 fine. I'm not sure if that applies. We can only assume that it wouldn't be listed otherwise. Nevertheless, he has already made an initial court appearance before a federal judge, doing so the day of his arrest on this Tuesday morning. An arraignment hearing was held. Porter has pled not guilty to counts 1, 2, and 3, and a jury trial has already been set for just not too far away, June the 30th in Pikeville. Porter was remanded to custody of the United States Marshal pending further order from the court. So far, he's been the only one arraigned or detained. Currently, warrants have not been issued for Red Lark or the Owens subject. We'll have more on this story as it becomes available from federal authorities. More top headlines, including the results of this morning's recanvass in 2 races from the primary here in McGoffin County. That coming up in just a few moments. In lieu of all of the headlines that I've been working on all day, I do not have an updated community calendar, but something that I wish to add real quickly before we take a brief break for the rest of our news. The McGoffin County boys basketball program is excited for the opportunity to work with the community's future players. It is time for summer basketball camp, June the 18th, June the 19th, and June the 20th. And folks, tomorrow, well, June starts tomorrow, so this will be here before you know it. It's just $50 per child. The second child and thereafter, $30 each. Checks made payable to the McGoffin County Boys Basketball Organization. This is for ages 7 to 15. This is for boys and girls. And you need to fill out this application. You can contact anyone with the McGoffin County basketball team, the boys team that is, but they're excited for a summer of camp, 3 days in June. You need to register as soon as possible. I have some funeral service announcements that we have this evening, not typed in, but that we need to make mention of. We have learned that Joseph Brian Smithers, 33, of Salyersville, who passed away on Saturday in the left-hand fork of Johnson, his services are to be held in Mount Sterling at the Kaufman Funeral Home. He's survived by his parents, Kathy Smithers and Jeff Smithers, also son Joseph Dominic, daughter Samara Smithers, 2 brothers, Jeffrey Rubin and Robert Coleman. That is all that we have. The actual listing for any services has not been advertised or reported as of yet, but we do know that the Kaufman Funeral Home in Mount Sterling is in charge of arrangements, and arrangements have now been set in McGoffin County and Salyersville in honor of 57-year-old Alvin Ray Poe of East Maple Street. He was the son of Charles Poe and the late Drusilla Watson Poe. Along with his father, he's survived by stepmother Loretta Poe, 2 sisters, Teresa Ann Poe and Connie Sue Rudd, as well as a host of family and friends. Funeral services in Alvin's honor are going to be held Sunday afternoon at 2 at the McGoffin County Funeral Home. Friends can visit the funeral home after 5 o'clock tomorrow evening, all day Saturday, and prior to Sunday's services. And lastly, tonight, Everett Ray Wright, 72, of Sprague Branch in McGoffin County, passed away this week. He's survived by 2 sons, Clinton and Dale Wright of Moorhead and Christopher Dean Wright of Floyd County. He was the husband of Essie Mae Howard Wright, who also survives. He's survived by a host of other family and friends. Graveside services will be held in his honor this Saturday at 2 from the Wright Family Cemetery at Grape Creek, but friends can call as well on the funeral home after 5 o'clock this evening, all day tomorrow, and any time prior to those graveside services on Saturday. The McGoffin County Funeral Home is in charge of arrangements, and when we come back, we'll have a report on 2 structure fires destroyed within 6 hours of each other, within 1 mile of each other, and we'll talk about 2 families which lost everything that they had. And we'll also have more on the results from this morning's recanvass. 2 races recanvassed in McGoffin County Courthouse earlier today from the May primary just days ago. I'll be right back. 2 fires on Route 40, about a mile apart this week, maybe 6 hours apart, Tuesday night into Wednesday morning. 2 homes completely destroyed, both families, one with 3 small children losing everything, one couple narrowly escaping with their lives. Both of these fires taking place in the Sagersville Fire Department's coverage area. The first was Tuesday night at about 11 o'clock.
The fire department was toned out to a fire on Route 40 at Tackett Road. They also toned out North McGoffin Fire Department for mutual aid to us. Tackett Road is located about 100 feet from Mining Fork. Upon arrival, we had a structure fire that was completely engulfed with flame. The residents wasn't home at the time when they showed up before we got the fire out, and stated that they'd left some clothes in the dryer and left the dryer on when they left.
The fire was at a Caldwell residence, a rental property that was lived in by Doug Caldwell, his wife, and 3 small children, ages 7, 1, and 9 months approximately. As the chief said, they were not at home at the time of the fire. It is still believed that the dryer may have caused the blaze, which left them homeless and destroyed all of their belongings.
The second fire is on Route 40 beside the power plant, the substation up on Route 40, and the residents at that location, both occupancies was home in bed, and they heard the smoke detector going off, and when they got up to check on it, there was flame in the living room, so they escaped out the back door of the home with nothing but their night clothes on.
That fire, around 4:30, less than 6 hours later, was at a mobile home that sits just next to the Route 40 substation. The home belonged to Donald Gibson and his wife Lois, who were both asleep, as the fire chief explained, and were both awakened by the smoke alarm, running out the back door, narrowly escaping the flames. The home was a total loss, as were all their belongings, except for a set of car keys, I believe, that they dug out of the rubble earlier today. But without a doubt, there's a reason that they escaped with their lives.
Yes, the smoke detectors actually saved their life. And by it operating properly, it woke them up and got them out of their household, because it was like 4 o'clock in the morning when we got there.
There were 2 recanvasses requested to be held this morning in McGoffin County, one which actually extends out of the McGoffin County area. There were actually 2 recanvasses requested here in McGoffin County today, 2 races, that being for Court of Appeals and for McGoffin County Sheriff. As for the Court of Appeals, the request came from Gene Smallwood Jr., who actually finished 3rd in the Court of Appeals race. He had 17,705 votes, while David Allen Barber had 22,744, about 5,000 or a little more than Smallwood. Nevertheless, there was a recanvass done. The recanvass in McGoffin County came out to being the same, and it was essentially the same result statewide as well. Here in McGoffin County, Republican Sheriff candidate Bill Meade requested a recanvass. Meade coming in 2nd on the Republican ballot, 40 votes behind incumbent Sheriff Carson Montgomery.
Carson was 584. Jeff Sayers was 299. Bill Meade 544.
Yes.
And Mike Nichols 301.
Yes.
And those numbers were the same as the unofficial results on election night, and thus no change in either race in McGoffin County.